What's up, y'all? It's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. I know I took a couple of weeks off due to the holidays, but we are back because everybody's always asking, Mom, what's for dinner? Your house, or is that just mine? Yeah. So anyway, we're making dinner over here, so I'm just going to share with you guys what we eat and what we have enjoyed. So I do have a couple of meals that we enjoyed here the last couple of weeks that I want to share with you today, and I hope you all enjoy. If this is your first time stopping by, don't forget to subscribe before you leave. I share grocery hauls, meal plans, and what's for dinner videos on this channel every single week. We would love to have you. All right, you guys, let's get on into it. Howdy, my friends. Tonight is going to be Instant pot roast and potatoes. So here's all the ingredients that I'm going to use for that. I know it looks like a lot, but trust me, I think this is going to be really good. No bear playing. I got my helper over here eating all the carrots I've cut up. So the recipe that I have calls for 3 pounds of a pot roast, but I have 2.15 here, and I think that's going to be plenty for our family. I have a bag of the blushing bell potatoes. The recipe calls for 1 pound. This is 1.5 pounds, so that's all right. I have cut up 4 large carrots here. I have 1 onion that I've cut up here, and I've cut it up small. I guess you could probably cut it up in larger pieces if your family really likes onion, but I'm trying to hide it in this recipe, so we'll see how it goes. And then I have 4 cloves of garlic. The recipe calls for 3, but I felt like 4 because we love garlic. Recipe also calls for 3 cups of beef broth. So I have these 2 cans here. I have not bought the Better Than Bouillon beef based stuff yet. I need to get that. I'm going to use about a teaspoon of this ground thyme. I don't have tomato paste. I'm all kinds of prepared, aren't I? So I'm going to use just a little bit of this tomato sauce to make up for that. You know, it is what it is if it doesn't turn out. I also don't have rosemary. I thought I did. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in some bay leaves. I've used those in a pot roast before. It was really good. You need salt and pepper to season the meat with, and then also some salt to throw in before you seal off the Instant Pot to cook. Need a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil and how much wort sauce? A tablespoon of Worcestershire, and then 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And then I don't have any red wine, and the recipe calls for half of a cup of red wine. I don't have. I got this extravagant wine thing with no wine. That's like a white wine right there. Yeah. But everything's great over here. I can't drink wine anyway, so, you know. But I have this balsamic vinegar, so I think I'll just use that instead. I don't know. I could be destroying this meal. Yeah, you got a carrot, but we're going to see. How bad can it be, right? All right, I'm going to get started cooking. Here we go. All right, so to start out here, we're going to go ahead and season this chuck roast with some kosher salt and ground black pepper on both sides. And in order to get a nice sear on this chuck roast, I'm going to go ahead and turn my Instant Pot onto the saute option. I'm going to go ahead and add in my oil and let it start heating up. All right, in goes the meat. We're going to go ahead and sear that on both sides. I'm going to say it's about 5 minutes per side. All right, and once we've got a good sear, I'm going to go ahead and remove the chuck roast from the Instant Pot, and next we're going to go ahead and add in the onions, and we're going to go ahead and let those cook for about 5 minutes until they're nice and softened. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in my garlic, my herbs, and typically would be tomato paste, but like I said, I'm using tomato sauce here. And we're going to go ahead and cook that for about 1 minute. This is when it started getting kind of scary for me because it was kind of burning on the bottom, but you know, we went with it and it turned out good. Next, I'm going to go ahead and stir in the flour, and I'm going to go ahead and whisk in a little bit of that balsamic vinaigrette after I get that incorporated. And we're going to let this cook for about 2 minutes. I know it looks hideous right now, and I was really worried, but you know, like I said, it turned out okay. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in my beef broth and the Worcestershire sauce, potatoes, carrots, and I'm going to go ahead and add in some salt on top. Alright, and once I get the veggies all settled down there in the bottom, I am going to go ahead and add the chuck roast back to the top of the veggies. And I will go ahead and leave the link to this recipe down in my description box below. Like I said, I did use quite a few different ingredients than it called for, and I'm sure that it would be fine in its original format, so just do whatever you want to do. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and seal off the Instant Pot, and I am going to manual cook this for 55 minutes based on the weight of my chuck roast. Alright, it is all done, and you guys, it smelled so good. I just can't tell you how lovely my house smelled. It just was awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and let this rest in its sauce or its juices for about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to go ahead and remove the chuck roast out, and I'm going to go ahead and, I guess, pull it apart. It says to slice it, but you guys, this was so tender there was no slicing. It was basically just, you just had to pull it apart. Also, I just wanted to note that I am pulling apart the fatty pieces away from the meat as well, as I'm kind of separating the meat. Alrighty, and there's my plate. Like I said, this smelled amazing and it tasted delicious. I definitely recommend this recipe. Alrighty, to start this meal off, I'm going to go ahead and add 32 ounces of beef stock and 32 ounces of water and a half a pound of small shells in this large pot to boil. And once they have cooked to the time according to the box, I'm going to just drain them, reserving some of the pasta water, and we'll just set those aside because we'll add those into our casserole later. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in my 2 tablespoons of butter and let that melt. You ever just sat and watched butter melt? Sorry, y'all. Alright, so now that we've got the butter melted, I'm going to go ahead and add in the peppers and the onion. And I'm doing this a little bit different than the recipe calls for because I'm not going to put the peppers and onions in the entire casserole. I'm just going to put that on one side because Jeff and Hayden do not really care for peppers and onions, but I do, and I'm not going to suffer on their account. Alright, so now that the peppers and onions have been cooked up, and I would say it probably took about 5 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and put those in a bowl and set them to the side for later. So next I'm going to go ahead and add in the garlic cloves and let them cook. I'm going to let them cook for about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in my hamburger meat. Now I did season my hamburger meat with salt and pepper. And as you see here, my hamburger was kind of still frozen, but you know, it is what it is. We got it cooked up. Alright, once the ground beef is cooked, I'm going to add in one whole 8-ounce block of cream cheese. And this stuff was kind of hard to incorporate into this meat. It didn't want to mix in, but I finally got it. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in that half a cup of reserved pasta water, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the noodles in, and we're going to get everything mixed up together. Also here, I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 cup of shredded mozzarella. Now, if your skillet is not oven proof, you can go ahead and put it into a casserole dish like I'm doing here. I just wasn't sure if this skillet was oven proof or not, so we just gonna put it in a 9x13. All right, here I'm gonna go ahead and add in my peppers and onions into my little portion of this casserole. And next I'm gonna go ahead and layer on some provolone cheese. Now the only thing that I would say I would do different next time about this recipe would be to go ahead and add more provolone cheese to the top, because more cheese never hurt anybody. Well, except for your cholesterol. I did go ahead and pop this into a 350-degree oven for 20 minutes, or you can just kind of look and make sure the provolone's not burning on top. And dinner is done. I really enjoyed this recipe. It was very flavorful. And as always, I will leave the link for this recipe down in my description box as well. So tonight is going to be Parmesan crusted chicken. Simple. It looks like very simple recipe. So I've got about 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breast here that I have placed in a Ziploc bag and pounded out with my wooden rolling pin. I don't have a mallet in my house. Could you imagine if we had a meat mallet in this house? Lord, it would be a mess. Anyways, you need 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of water, a teaspoon of minced garlic. It's probably a little over garlic, but you know how we feel about garlic. You need salt and pepper. The recipe calls for a half a teaspoon of each of those. 2 cups of shredded Parmesan cheese here. I've got this Frigo brand that we always buy and love. Excuse the toddler in the background who has no control over himself. But that's all right. What toddler does. 4 tablespoons of butter here, and then also needed 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Y'all like it a little bit. yeah, that's going to be interesting because that's not quite 2 tablespoons, but that's okay. All right, I'm going to get to cooking. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and beat this egg with the tablespoon of water and make like a little shallow bowl for dipping. And then we're going to, the Parmesan's going to go in another bowl. I'm going to dip it in the water and egg mixture, then dip it in the Parmesan mixture, and then it's going to go on the in a skillet to cook. All right, so as I mentioned before, I went ahead and added the egg and the tablespoon of water and the garlic to one shallow like bowl or dish or whatever here. And then also I added the Parmesan to another, and I'm going to go ahead and dip each chicken breast into the egg first and then into the Parmesan. Now, the only thing that I'm going to suggest, or maybe try differently myself next time, is maybe using grated Parmesan instead of shredded Parmesan, because the Parmesan just wasn't wanting to stick to this chicken. I had so much trouble with this, you guys. I'm not sure. Any recommendations? Have you guys had this happen to you before? I mean, the recipe still turned out really good, but I was just kind of disappointed that most of the cheese kind of stuck to the pan while I was cooking it. Alrighty, now to my skillet, I've got it set on like medium high. I'm going to go ahead and add in the butter and let it go ahead and get melted up. We're going to add in that oil as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and add the chicken in. Now the recipe here says to place the chicken and do not move until the edges turn brown, estimating it to be about 3 minutes. But I just had so much trouble here, as you'll see. Half of my cheese got left on the skillet. And once those are done, I'm going to go ahead and add in the other two, and we will be about ready to eat. Now, I did go ahead and air fry some corn on the cob. If you've never done that, you need to try that. We had some roasted veggies and some mashed potatoes. Alrighty, my friends, that is going to wrap it up for this week's What's for Dinner video. I hope you have enjoyed what you've seen here. If so, don't forget to give me a great big old thumbs up down below. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week. And until next time, keep them fed.